And I was talking to a couple people because this really was weird to me. I got a message from a company that I don't follow and they don't follow me. We have never interacted on social media at all. I've never had a comment from them, anything. And they sent me a message and they said, hey, we would like you to promote our Father's Day sale. Now they've got like 20,000 followers. So they said, hey, we'd like you to promote our Father's Day sale to your guests, your followers. And in exchange, we will post your video on our social medias. I'm like, we've never talked. I have no, like, I have nothing to do with you at all.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just the weirdest way to, I don't know. And that's like you said, Instagram, it's a weird thing. So we got a couple people coming in. Hi, everyone who's coming in. Evan, my guy. You guys might know, I hope you guys know Ryan. If you don't know Ryan, you need to follow him on YouTube. Cutting It Close Workshop. He is
just,
the man.
Just cutting it close. Just cutting it close. Just want to throw that out there.
Well, you know what? And I was confused because it does say Cutting It Close Workshop a couple places. I thought. Well,
yeah, you're good. You're good.
We're just called Cutting It Close. So, anyway, so he's a great guy. And like I said, Evan, I don't know if do you know Evan from Canada, a young guy?
Yep.
That's my guy right there.
Poker chip man.
Yeah, exactly. Poker chip man. He says hello. So as we're getting in here, we were just talking about a couple of things. And so I decided to start calling this Maker Origin Stories. I was just calling this Maker Talk. But really, I feel like talking about your start and how you got to where you are is such an important story. I mean, you and I talked, and as Evan said, he met you at Workbench. You and I, that's where we first met and talked. And I heard a little bit about the story. So I would like you to tell us what your origin story is. How did Cutting It Close start? Where did you start? And how did you get to be where you are? That's where we're going.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to really try to shorten this down, but
you know no. The point of this is to really dig into and talk about all these different things, because I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned.
Okay, so I have like it's almost like it's kind of like there's two sides, and so I have the side where I started my woodworking business, and kind of try to make money woodworking, and then there's the point in time where I started the YouTube channel. And there's like this mesh point. So the YouTube channel would have never came about without my woodworking business. So that's what I'll kind of go into first. Yeah. So I started full-time woodworking whenever I was 16 years old. I was a welding in my summer job through middle school. Like legitly, I was a welder when I was 12, 13 years old, out in the sun, either stick welding or MIG welding, like as a 12, 13-year-old in the Texas heat. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So I decided that was really hot. I need to make some money. So my uncle was paying me $7.25 an hour, not good. And I decided I could make cutting boards over a summer and actually make more money than I could welding. And so summer I turned 16, summer I turned puberty. I started my own woodworking business with a $75 miter saw from Harbor Freight. And I needed three things in life at the time. I needed beer money, gas money, and girl money. Not in any particular order, but those three things. So that's where I originally started woodworking at. And I kept with it through high school. And going into college, I was, doing everything for everybody. And I wouldn't call myself a woodworker, more of a handyman. I was refinishing tables, making in-grain cutting boards, making regular cutting boards. Just got my first CNC because I was selling so many inlaid cutting boards, and I was doing everything with a scroll saw and a plunge router. I could justify a CNC router with the amount of orders I had outstanding. And so I figured I bought a $6,000 CNC router. Everything else has been bootstrapped to that point. And did that, paid off the CNC. And I was still not making any money. And it was just me by myself, trying to put myself through college. And one day I had a wreck, and the truck got like, I begged the insurance guy not to total it, right? It was like a piece of crap truck. I had, no AC, no radio, and manual windows. And that was what I drove back and forth to college at the time, which was 2-hour drive there back.
Oh, wow.
And so I had a pet pig at the time as well. So the pet pig would sit beside me, and then I'd drive to college, and she'd sit on the front seat and chew bubble gum while I drove to college. So it was really fun.
I don't think I've heard a more Texas thing in my life.
Yeah. So Penny the pig. Yeah. She lived with me in college in the house. And then now she's an outdoor pig now, but she was an indoor pig for 5 years.
Probably a big girl.
So
yeah, probably a big girl, right?
Yeah. I mean, she was this big, and now she's about 150 pounds, something like that. Still my innocent little piglet.
So, all right. So you totaled the truck.
Yep.
I find it interesting. The two questions for you before we move on. First of all, what were you in college for? What was your major?
So I changed majors 7 times. Pretty much every semester that they allowed me to. I initially went for pharmaceuticals and then chemical engineering. And then when the woodworking started to do a little bit better, I started taking construction science because they had a wood shop, and I thought I can make stuff in their wood shop and sell it and not have to drive home 2 hours. So I get there and I start building stuff and selling stuff out of it. And then the dean comes down on me and says, you can't make a profit off of our wood shop. And so I said, well, I don't need this major anymore. So I changed again. And it's funny, I had to take every single hard class, right? Because every time I changed majors, the weed out classes. So I had to take physics, organic chemistry, calculus, Cal 1, like all the hard classes. And I eventually went to agricultural economics. So farming economics. And that's where I landed.
Okay.
I liked college. College was a lot of fun.
Yeah, college was a lot of fun. I'm there with you. I had a great time. My daughter literally just came back from her freshman year today. I went back last weekend, picked up all her stuff, and she came back today after her finals and is moving in. And that's always an interesting transition. So, all right. So your truck?
They didn't total it. It was $1,100 to repair it, and I didn't have the $1,100. And this is like so crucial, I think. And this is like my first big lesson I learned in like business woodworking was I was watching so many woodworkers at the time on YouTube and like trying to learn and all this. And I did like the normal route everybody goes, right? You start woodworking, you start selling stuff. You don't think it's, you underprice it because you don't think you can sell it for that high. And then turns out 2-3 years later, you're able to get some tools, but you don't actually have any real money. You're not making any real money. And my passion was just dying. Like most everybody I've ever talked to that tried to start a business like that. Yeah.
Valid.
And so when I would drive home every Thursday at lunch, and I would work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'd drive up Monday morning to class. And I did that all 5 years of college. I went 5 because I had a blast. I did that all 5 years of college, and I only stayed 6 weekends total in all of college because I was working.
Yeah.
And that was my life. Well, 2 years into that, like I had nothing to show for it. I had some nice tools, but like couldn't afford to repair my truck. And so I was sitting at my computer at 4:30 in the morning, bawling my eyes out. And I typically work till about 4 in the morning. And I woke up, this is younger me, I could do this. Woke up 3 hours later and worked another 18-hour day. It's crazy. And I was bawling my eyes out, and I had an Etsy shop at the time. I did like 10 grand in sales, nothing crazy. And this one product idea came to mind, and it was a docking station. It was this wooden docking station. And so I went out to the shop, cut one out, came back, and I said, this is what's going to make me all my money. And it was just held a phone, watch, wallet, keys, like they're very common now. And I put it on Etsy, and this was like October 18th, 2016. Put it on Etsy, and within 6 weeks, we did $43,000 in sales with it. That one product.
Damn.
And from that night on, that was the original design. And I said no to everything that wasn't making a docking station after that. And for the next 4 years. That is the only product I made for 4 years.
Wow. So okay, I'm curious how much you made. You know how much you made off of that docking station then? The design?
Yeah. So that was my sophomore year in college. I was 19, designed it. By the time I graduated college, we did $1 million in sales with it just on Etsy, and had 7
Damn.
full-time employees by the time I graduated. And it was
Damn.
all out of my parents' horse barn.
So
all with like we slowly like concreted horse stalls as we grew, and
yeah.
I had 3 CNCs at that time then, and still just a basic. I mean, we were shipping out of my parents' house. We had a wagon. We'd wheel everything to it. We had horses walking through, and I'm not big horses. Did not come from a very, rich family. These are miniature horses. They're like owning a whole bunch of boats. Yeah.
Okay.
And my
you got them at half
pretty
price,
much,
right?
pretty much. Yeah, they're not good for much. And my second and third hires were my parents. So I wanted to get my parents out of debt, and I wanted to help my mom with her retirement and make my dad retire. So I had 1 employee, and then convinced mom and dad to quit his job, and mom, she's always a stay-at-home mom. And I said, you're going to get retirement and I'm going to fund it. So hired them. So when I was 21, hired my parents, and that was interesting. So
so let's take a sidetrack here. How did you you just put this on Etsy and you just said, all right, this is my first listing, and you just put it up and you just got views on it? How did you get the sales? Like, what did you do on Etsy that helped get the eyes on it?
Yeah. So one, I took really good photos. I say at the time it was really good photos, literally with a poster board and 2 like LED lights, a white background. Took really good photos, and I made like 20 listings of it. And that's really key on Etsy. You don't just make one, you make like 20. And I put it under men's gift. And so it started taking off under men's gift, which is a massive search term. And it was Christmas, so the holidays kind of picked it up really good there. And so that's, Etsy did the marketing for me, but the main thing was really good photos, and it was just something different that nobody's seen before on Etsy at the time.
So you said you did, how many listings did you do for it?
Yeah.
All right. Were they all on your, like, just the one Drapela Works or whatever it was at the time? Was it just on one, or did you have multiple
just
Etsys?
one Etsy shop. Yep.
And did you change the name of the different listings?
You would so imagine I have like 2 main photos, right? So this is like, one's like red stain, one's dark stain, right? One has dad stuff and one has John Smith. Okay. And so the dad stuff one would get targeted Father's Day gifts, gifts for man, husband anniversary, stepdad gift, dad gift, father gift, da-da-da-da-da. The other one would be under like docking station for men, key holder, catch-all, stuff like that. And so each of those terms is a different title and a different tag set on Etsy. And so 20 different listings, 20 different places they're trying to get found at. Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, I mean, I've never done that. I always feel kind of, I mean, I'm just being honest. I always feel a little uncomfortable doing that, but it makes a lot of sense to do that and get that out there for the many different ones. So there you go, people.
Yeah.
There's your first nugget.
And what's interesting is like everybody's scared to do that because they don't want Etsy to hurt them or something. Etsy only cares about making money.
Yeah.
And so they're making money legally as possible. Right. So as long as you don't toe the line on the illegality or copy somebody, they don't stand for that. They'll kick you off right away. And it doesn't matter. Like I have now on my Etsy shop, I have like 30 products total, and I have like 500 listings. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I might have to try that. Okay. So the listing, so this started taking off. You took over the horse barn, which is now in your big shop, right?
The horse barn's still about a mile away. So I still have the horse barn. And then,
okay.
So graduating college, have 7 full-timers. The day I moved out of college, I actually bought 2 acres of land about a mile away from my parents' house. And 6 weeks later, I broke ground on my shop. And we actually built the shop ourselves.
Wow.
Or I didn't pour the concrete, but we did everything else. And it's 12,000 square feet. And I put a double wide trailer behind it. And that's where I still live. And we came out with the very next product, which was piggy banks. And so I started making wooden piggy banks and came out with those in 2020, August of 2020. And our first calendar year with those, we did 1.5 million just on Etsy. So
Damn.
Our Etsy growth was like 50,000, 150,000, 450,000, 650, 1.6 million, and then 2.4 million was kind of like our growth trajectory on Etsy. Yeah.
Damn. Now, I know that you still have the Etsy. Do you have a regular website as well?
I do, but it doesn't do much at all. Yeah, like we'll do now. Etsy's slowed down for us a little bit just because I haven't put like Etsy is just it wants you to love on it, right? You want to be constantly making the best pictures possible and stuff like that. So like this year we'll only do like 1 million on Etsy. So not as big for us anymore, but you know, the COVID years helped. But yeah, we have a website.
Yeah.
It doesn't do much. My products are probably too cheap to have a really good customer base. And that's a mistake I made early on and never recovered from it really, or never righted that wrong. Because my shop was set up for production work. All my employees were trained on production work. So it's like really hard to make that switch. And yeah. And so I have a regular website, but it does less than 100,000 a year on my wood side. Wood side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So that's going to bring us to a couple different things. So you're doing the woodworking, you're setting up these different products on Etsy, and you're making these sales. So then where does Cutting It Close, YouTube, all of this play in?
So, you know, I had CNCs and I've been running CNCs for 3-4 years at this time. And there was like so little information out there on it. I didn't know what to do, how to work anything. Well, I learned eventually, but learned through the school of hard knocks. Right. And when I started getting buying my industrial shop in 2019 and filling it up, I have never at this point in time, remember, I was just in my barn. I'm like a hobbyist. I'm a hobbyist at heart. So like, I only knew like Powermatic was like top of the line. Festool was like, I can't afford that. Right.
Right.
And so I was still going to Home Depot for most of my stuff, minus the CNCs. And somebody told me, he's like, hey, you need to get a rip saw. I was like, I've never heard of a rip saw in my life. You know, they're like, oh, you need to get a wide belt sander. I'm like, I have a drum sander. I don't know what a wide belt sander is. You know, I had a Grizzly, or I eventually had a Woodmaster 37-inch drum sander, single head, which I love, still have it. But, I didn't know about any of these industrial tools. And so I started the YouTube channel to start teaching about CNCs and industrial tools because it was like blew my mind. And I'm like, there's no information on this. So I started doing that. And that was just to teach. I don't know. I put out a couple videos, and my second video I ever did on YouTube ended up getting like 250,000 views, and it was awful. I had a bowl cut. It was like, no good sound. And just kind of kept with it. And it was so funny. We reached like 100,000 subscribers last year on it, I think. Yeah, last year. And I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just liked putting out stuff and teaching people. And that's where it came about. But it was really out of anger I made it, because I was so pissed that like nobody told me any of this stuff. And then like the typical woodworker too, that woodworker path that I got burned out on and almost failed on.
Yeah.
So many people were still doing that. And I'm like, that's not the right path. And so let me teach a little bit of the business sense that I've learned. And selfishly too, it's like a documentation. So I do my shop tours like every 2 years, and it's not for YouTube. It's for me to go back and watch what my shop was like 2 years ago and all that stuff. So
yeah. Well, I remember last year you talking about the the cutting it close sort of academy that you were talking about starting. So all right, so you hit 250,000 views. That's outstanding. Like I can't get any of that on my long form stuff, but again, we were talking about this earlier. It's just long form versus short form. Such a different beast. What do you think? Go with that. What do you think is your secret? What do you think helps you for the long form stuff?
Well, and I'm no guru, no like super awesome person on this. But what I've came to the conclusion of was there's two different camps. One is entertainment, as one is education. Education will inherently get less views because not everybody needs to be educated on what you're teaching, but everybody always wants to be entertained. And so if you are trying to educate, you cannot get mad when it doesn't just pop off. Now, with that being said, educated audience, the ones that want to get educated, they're probably 10 times more valuable than the entertainment audience. And so my goal is, and like I've learned this, is I tried to get views for a little bit. And what I learned was it did not help me any, it did not grow. I did a whole bunch of shorts and, we got like 15,000 subscribers from it, or we had one go viral and we got like 15 million views on it or something. And it hurt me more than it helped me. And so I said, well, we're not doing that anymore. We're just going to focus on educating. And if I get 10,000 views a video, I'm happy. And so that's kind of my like litmus test now. And now, even more so now, as I'm still learning and progressing on this, these videos coming up that I'm about to be posting, I came up with the thumbnail before I even did the video. And I think that's going to help out a lot. Because the thumbnails are just so much better, because I've had some really good, like awesome content, but like 0 views. And I'm not saying like, yes, I don't want a lot of views inherently because they're going to be educational and I don't care to try to get 1 million views, but it's big enough now where like, I should be able to get 20,000 views a video and it's going to be good. So yeah, the difference is the thumbnail, I think, and the hook is slightly different than short form. I'm not good at short form. I'm only good at long form, and I like to teach, and I do a lot of improv. Like I have no script for any of my videos.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't get. See, I'm stuck on this, and this is where I'm going to be lost for I think a long time. Is the whole idea of the thumbnail being so important? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And it's the same thing as the titles. I lost this. I mean, it worked for you. I actually, one of the ones that I saw that kept coming up was I lost so much money at the whatever it was, the Christmas shop. Right. And that you did that, it came out and I saw, I mean, like, I think I saw when it came out, and then like 2 days later, it was 1.5 billion views, something like that. That might be a wrong number.
But here's the thing. That video, like, it's good for ad revenue, but my audience, like, that's not my audience I want to hit. And so it all comes back to like now my biggest goal, and this is where CIC workshop comes in. And they only have CIC workshop because cuttingitclose.com was taken. So I had to come up with something else. But it's like, all I want to do now is help somebody click go on their CNC. That's it. That is my mission in life currently, is to help somebody click go. And I'm going to do that with 3 different ways. I'm going to inspire them with ideas. I'm going to motivate them with just, you can do it, right? Get out there, smack them on the butt. And the third thing is I'm going to try to educate them so they feel comfortable doing it. And if I can do those 3 things in a single video, that's our litmus test now for the video. It's not like, how watchable is this? Nothing like that. It's like, do I motivate them? Do I inspire them? And do I educate them? And
I was reading some of the comments on there. It seems like people really feel that way with what you're saying.
Yeah. And it took me a long time to get to that point. A very, very long time. And I want to say hello to Dennis. Dennis, good to see you in West Virginia. Also with you, Joe. Good to see you.
Joe's my guy. Joe's a great guy. Okay. So I like hearing about this. Now let's talk a little bit more about this. The Cutting It Close Academy, right? So here you are. You're developing these lessons. What are you doing in the lessons? So what do you think makes you different than other ones? Let's say that, because I think that's really what I want to get to.
I think
because there are a lot of YouTube videos out there, right?
Yeah, I think it helps. It helps if you've done the thing. That's my wife, by the way. Thank you, sweetie. It helps if you've done the thing. And like, I think there's a limit to like, I think people can see through the jazz if you don't know what you're talking about and read a book a couple times. And I have the proof and the pudding, I guess. I have the big shop. I try to have as much knowledge as possible, but I also, like, I'm not the expert on it yet. People are still smarter than me. But I think that helps. So that makes me a little different because there's not a lot of people that have started with a $75 miter saw and literally that's tool, bought the next tool, and I am where I am. And so that's really cool. I think I'm young and that hurts me and helps me. It's really weird because the CNC audience is like 55 plus. So, well, 80.
I mean, there's a lot of younger guys in it, but I mean, well, the thing is, as an older gentleman, I mean, I'm 52. I can see that being young, like you look at this, you're like, oh, this kid knows what he's doing because that his generation grew up with computers. This is easy for him, right? So,
well, and with CIC Academy, and I don't talk about it much. I don't really promote it much because I never wanted to sell a course. I wanted to sell a community because I never thought a course could answer all the questions, Joe. And so I developed it as a community and said like, hey, if, instead of selling a course for $600 or whatever, for, I'll give you a free trial. You get access to everything for a week and you can take it, leave it and go away. And like, you can get all the information for free, or you can stay a month. It's like $100 a month, or the lowest you can get is $50 a month, and you can get all the information. And so I try to be very open. Like I show my Etsy shop, I show the numbers. We do a weekly Q&A, and like I'm an open book because if you want to try to beat me, good luck. But
well, you're established.
That
helps.
And so that also makes me slightly different. And I think the last thing I would say, and I don't like, this is not a toot my own horn. I'll tell you, my wife was with me whenever we hit 100,000 subscribers, and there was not even a smile. Like it was like, okay, because that was never the goal. It was not a celebration. There's no parade. I did that in the back for my employees. They wanted it more than I did.
I was gonna say it's
but it wasn't. That's not the goal. Never was it was the goal for like probably a 3-month span. But other than that, it's just like, I'm helping people, and I do whatever makes me sleep at night. And so that stuff makes me sleep at night, and I don't make, I actually talked to a guy today. I made $20,000 off of YouTube ad revenue last year, total 20 grand. That's it. And it sounds like a lot, but not a lot.
I mean, I mean, it is to those of us who aren't making anything or much of anything, but it's a small part of your business. So I can see that. So I want to side quest for a second. Dan Woodworking asked over on Instagram, he says, I've been watching your videos. I'm thinking about buying a CNC. Which one do you recommend for a small home shop? And I know what I'm going to recommend. So I'll let you go.
I would ask a side question of like, it's so funny. I actually have my video coming out this weekend, this Sunday, Logan, is Alt Mill versus Shapeoko. So should be a good one.
Well,
Yeah, so this is what I was about to say,
guy,
because I did the Onefinity versus the alt mill as well. So that I personally stay away from cheap ones, because there's there's three variables with the CNC. It's like you have to design it good, so you have to do a good design. The machine has to do what you want it to do, and you have to know how to operate the machine. So there's three variables there.
right?
You want to try to eliminate as many variables as possible, and the easiest one to eliminate is having a good machine that does what you tell it to do. Because if you don't have that,
Right.
it's an equation you cannot solve, and then you quit and you give up. So that is literally how most CNC journeys start. They get a cheap one, they give up, they say, I don't understand this. It's like, well, you're dealing with three variables. So I hate the Amazon ones, cheap ones. Like you need to be able to click go the easiest, because clicking go is very hard to get to that point in the first place. So any of the big three, I would say. And me, that's Onefinity, Shapeoko, or the alt mill. That's any of the 1-3.
So I'm going to throw something out there. First, I want to say thank you to Dennis. He was looking at my Etsy store and liked the stuff that I sell. So my first CNC was from this company called Bob's CNC, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Okay, right. So it's a Baltic birch plywood CNC. I think I had a 16 by 16 cutting area, and similar to you, I started off. I was hand routing out patterns, and I was filling them with epoxy. And what I found was that I could not flatten the epoxy with the Bobs because I couldn't get it consistent enough to the depth that I needed to get. But what I liked about it was that putting it together and learning to use it was perfect for the very beginning, because I understood more about the CNC when I literally built it from the ground up, from the wood, and and everything else. So it was an interesting idea to have to build the whole thing and start at the beginning. So I used that. Then I sold that and went to the X-Carve, which I liked, but I hated the belts, and that's why I went to the Onefinity.
Yeah, and like this is me. I hate building stuff. I hate putting stuff together, and so I like assembly. I give that, like, always rate that like the worst on these CNC reviews. Like, I hate assembling stuff, and so and I don't know a crazy amount about like technical stuff about a CNC. I mean, probably more than most, but I'm not a CNC nerd. I just like clicking go and watching it cut. And so that's when I recommend the big three. I know a guy that has a Bob's and he's cutting out boot jacks, and he's cutting out boot jacks out of pine. And he has like a big Bob CNC. He's like $1,500, and he's making a killing. Yeah. And he's like, should I upgrade? Yeah. And I'm like, heck no, don't upgrade. Like, is it keeping up? Is it doing what you need it to do? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, you don't need another one. Yeah. So,
I mean, for that, exactly. Yeah. It's perfect for that. So, I mean, there's a lot of, and that's the nice thing, is that there's a lot of different options out there. I would agree with you. As my wife says, buy once, cry once, right? Get something.
I would say, like, this is my opinion, and I've used, so I like the alt mill is my favorite CNC just because I enjoy the heck out of that machine. I love it. It's very comparable to the Onefinity. The alt mill's if I had to make 100 of something, the alt mill would beat the Onefinity a little bit, but Onefinity is great. The Masso controller is great, and there's a lot of upgrades you can do to it. The Shapeoko, to me, is the best hand holding company. And so they have the best like ecosystem and training, but not the best built CNC.
Okay.
I wouldn't try to make a living with, or I wouldn't try to make production work with the Shapeoko ever. I would leave that to the Onefinity or the alt mill. I would, if I had a couple side projects to do, or weekend warrior type stuff, Shapeoko is great for that. They handhold you a lot more than Onefinity or the alt mill. So that's like, if I was judging the big three, because that's the three I've used, I would not go with the Laguna. They are too expensive, not as good customer service. So that is
well, and the nice thing about the the nice thing that I like about the Onefinity is that they go to a lot of the shows and different things, so it gives you the opportunity to play with it and see it.
They are the best.
Like that's what made it easy for me. Yeah, and speaking of that, actually, and Joe asked if you have any plans to come to the Catskill Mountain Maker Camp. And I don't know if you've ever been up here. It might be a little bit cold for you, but it's a great time. Like the Maker Camp, this seems to be a theme every week. We wind up talking about it because it's a great time.
Yeah, never been. I do want to go. I do want to go if I can. I would enjoy it. I think I would enjoy it. Somebody they showed me a spoon they made last year there, and it looked amazing.
Yeah, there's so much stuff to do. We'll get into it. I will see you at AWFS this year, and if anybody here is going to be at AWFS, I know Ryan's going to be there walking around. I'm actually going to be working. I'm judging student competition. I think I'm emceeing an event for that, and then I'm giving tours for an educator field trip, and I'm going to walk around with a group of teachers, maybe some students, and we're going to go to different booths. It's all planned out, and I'm going to go talk to people and let the people take them to different people to talk to. I think it's going to be neat.
Yeah, you're going to give the people what they want.
Hopefully. So we'll talk about it. All right. So coming back to this now, one of the things. Okay, Dan, both of us will be there, so you'll definitely see us there. So coming back to you, because here's something that I find really interesting. Now you've got the woodworking, you've got the YouTube and all that. I want to talk a little bit more about the YouTube, but you've got like 78, maybe 90 different businesses running out of your shop now, right? Do you talk about that?
No, okay, and this is, one of my biggest lessons that I'm learning is I'm condensing down everything. I'm trying to get focused because I can outwork anybody, but I can't outfocus anybody. So I can work 100 hours a week and beat people, 80 hours a week and beat people. But when I'm doing 5 different things, somebody 20 hours on each thing, I can't beat people. And I like to win. And so what I am learning is I'm starting to, so I have a cooler company that I actually got rid of beginning of this year. And it was we're in Buc-ee's, which is a big store in Texas. And we're in like 120 stores. It was doing good. And it was just not a distraction, but it was a distraction, but not in like it wasn't like a side thing. Like we had employees with it and like we're, and I got rid of it and it was a hit, but it allows me to focus on the woodworking side. And so now it's more like, since we are a production shop and we have all the tools that like any shop would ever need, it's more about like what's going to keep the CNCs running, cutting out product. And so that's kind of what I'm focused on now. And I really found a need on YouTube with CIC Workshop. And so that's kind of where I'm focusing a lot of my energy now. And what's weird is, so we make these, like one of the products we sell on CIC Workshop is a panel. So it's a 2 foot by 2 foot panel of walnut, like 1.25 inches thick. All right. Or you can sell maple cherry walnut. We use that exact same panel and sell stuff on our website and on Etsy shop. We take that panel, cut it in half, and make a cutting board out of it. Right. And we sell those cutting boards for like $120 a pop. Okay. I sell that same panel on CSE Workshop for like $100. Okay. 80, 89, it depends on what wood, right? For like walnut, I think it's $100. You can get a 2 foot by 2 foot piece of walnut, 1.25 inches thick. So all I'm doing is saying, you know what? Instead of me making stuff with the panels, what if I sold that to other people so they can make stuff? And like, to be profitable? Right. Yes, because I'm literally cutting it in half and making that panel. I'm turning it into $240, and you can get it for like $90, right, or $100. And so that's kind of the strategy behind cutting it close, which is not crazy. It's like, and we make and sell in-grain cutting boards on Etsy, right? And so it's like, well, I'm going to sell in-grain cutting board kits on CIC Workshop. Same product, One I oil, sand a lot more around the edges. The other one I don't, and I'll let other people do it. And I'm letting them use, like, we buy over 100,000 board foot a year in our shop. So
Jeez.
I get pricing, and I just kind of pass that on to the guys. And so, yeah,
Right.
that's how I now run it. So I'm trying to focus back and say, you know what can I do that helps both companies, right? Helps other people
All
at the
right.
same time. And there's, 1,000 products I want to do, and I only pick probably one out of every 300-400 product ideas right now. So focus.
Well, that's what I was gonna. That's what I was gonna ask you. How many cutting it close products are you selling, and how did you decide? Like, do you do a shotgun approach and put a whole bunch out there and see what sells? Do you pick and choose?
No, we sell. We have bits. So like bits is a big part of it, but let's just say bits is one product, multiple different bits.
Right.
And then we have panels, glued up panels. And then we have some sheet goods. And the 3 sheet goods we have is Baltic birch, color core, which is that HDPE, that tri-layered plastic.
Okay.
And then we have Bamex, which is a material that I developed, or I helped. It was kind of already made, but I made it food safe and usable for CNC guys. And so that's pretty much it. We have like 3 categories: bits, hardwood panels, pre-made panels. And our biggest seller is the inlay kits. And the reason I did those is because whenever I wanted to start doing in-grain cutting boards, I had to buy a drum sander. And that's really expensive. And they take a long time to make. And so you can literally buy one from me cheaper than you can make it yourself. And so that's kind of where my math comes in at, is if you can't make these yourself, that's why I don't have a long grain inlay kits, because somebody can probably make that faster than I can. They don't need a lot of equipment.
Right.
So,
the long grain is the easy one. And not for nothing, I know a guy who sells flattening jigs to help people who make.
Yes, and that is the workaround. And if everybody knew how awesome your flattening jig was, I'd be out of business.
I need to do. I have not done a video on it in a while, and I need to, because my sales have been down lately, especially compared to what they were earlier in this year. Coming back to Joe for a second, Joe says, I imagine you must be pretty good at pivoting frequently. Hi, Vanessa. So let me ask you this. Whenever you're looking at your products that you're putting out there, right? When do you decide, okay, this one is doing well, this one's not doing well, I need to pivot and move from X to Y? Like, is there a price point? Is there a point in time when you look at it and you go, I got to move away?
So two different camps here. On my woodworking side, Drapela Works. Like, people think if you have a good product, you'll have some sales trickle in. Like, if it's a good product, you're going to be very, very busy, and you'll be very busy. So like on Etsy, if I don't have a product that I think I can do $100,000 with in a year, I don't make it. And I'm very strategic about which ones I pick, which ones I try to put a lot of emphasis into, because if I don't try really hard, it's not going to work. Like, for photos on Etsy, I'll spend 40 hours on a set of photos myself, because that's what sells the product. It doesn't matter how good everything else is. Just like on YouTube, if you don't have a good thumbnail, nobody's going to click. And so Etsy, to me, I literally will spend 40 hours on a thing, do it, and then if the product starts doing decent, then I'll hire a professional to take the photos, and it makes the product even better. And so that's on the wood side. That's how I approach it. And if I cannot make money on it, I don't even, like, if I have to go into the nitty gritty to try to make money on it, I just don't do it, period. And I never compare prices to others. I do it maybe for like pricing psychology, but
Right.
never to determine my price.
Okay.
Like I'll do it as in like, you know, somebody's charging, you know, I need to charge $58. And so I'll charge $59.99 because all my competitors are charging, you know, $65.99, right? Something like that.
Right.
But never to lower my price.
It's interesting the number of people who sell things like that at such a deep discount on Etsy that you wonder how they're making any money at all with some of that. And that being a competition makes it difficult, I think.
Well, here's the funny thing. I realized this the other day, or about a year ago. I say the other day, but it's about a year ago. You know, what is it? Like 95% of businesses go out of business within the first, 5 years? Something like that, 92. So if you're judging your product on other people's business, they're probably losing money or not going to run a good business. So if you're pricing for profit, right, and you're trying to run a business, it's probably best not to go off of other people's stuff because they're probably wrong.
Yeah.
So that's something I learned. And then now it's like, well, you don't know if they live in the heart of walnut country, if they have their cousin owns the walnut sawmill that they get all their wood from. They have a cousin in China that ships stuff to them for free. Like, you don't know. And so you don't know, like, the most common thing, I just enjoy making this stuff. I don't need to make any money from it because I'm retired, right? And you're like, well, I don't know. And so I learned just to never look at other people's stuff.
I mean, it makes sense. It just drives me nuts when I look at that. And the fact is that they are, I mean, they're devaluing the price of everyone else's stuff too by doing that in a way. Okay, so you're still selling your cutting boards and everything else. So it's not devaluing yours, but it's more. You get more of the. Well, I could buy that, but there's this one.
Yeah, and that's where like it's like I wouldn't try to go head to head with cutting boards, right? Because I'm only being able to price them like I am because I get wood so like discounted. You know, but like one thing people don't understand, like I'm doing an in-grain block right now, and I do in-grain cutting boards, and we do them the most efficient way possible. You can't make them any more efficient than we're doing, and we still have 40% waste. 40% waste, and you can argue with me. I will show you. It's 40%. Yeah. And so people are like, oh, this is a board. This cutting board's 2 board foot. And I bought walnut for $10 a board foot. So I spent $20 in materials. It's like, no, you probably spent $30 in materials, probably 50% more than you thought. And that's where people lose money.
That's interesting because I do that. And that is a problem. So, but this brings me to another question, sort of thought. Now, you went through multiple different paths in college. You wind up getting this agricultural business, which I'm sure has made a difference here. What are some skills or strategies that you've had to grow and get over time that have helped you become successful or stay successful?
So I would say like the things that you know to do that you don't think are possible to scale, like to keep growing with, that's what we're doing. For example, and this is like how we've been able to keep going good. Because I'm an old-fashioned guy. I don't like AI chatbots. I don't like just getting a bundle full of random stickers and QR codes and stuff like that, the stack, right, that you probably throw away. And so we still write, even we did this at the start and we still do it now. And that's why I think we have 30,000 5-star reviews on our Etsy shop now. We handwrite thank you letters and we treat customers right. And like, this is not the sexy stuff, right? This is you treat customers right. You handwrite the letters. You follow up good, and like the product speaks for itself. And you always brand your product with like a very clear, not an initial, not a random logo. Like it has to be searchable, and that's really important. So like even with CIC Workshop now, we are handwriting. Everybody that orders from us gets a handwritten letter specific to them, not like a generic one. It's like, hey, Susan, Logan, this is your very first order with us. Really appreciate it. I hope you like these bits and the panel. Like very specific. And it's a lot of work to get to that point. And so we have like 3 people almost all day writing handwritten thank you letters. And then they get and if you order from us, you'll get a follow-up call within a week checking on if you like your order. Now, this is my belief, and I could be wrong on this, that matters more than anything else I do. And that's going to spread like wildfire. And so it's not like, what if I do that helps me stay successful? It's, I think, just doing the basic things that are not sexy and making, like, there's a lot to be said about making good product and treating customers right that I don't think people, like, obviously there's a marketing side. Like, obviously, like, you have to have, Etsy does the marketing for me. And on CIC Workshop, I have the YouTube channel now. So marketing aside, that is like, you can only put sugar on a turd for so long before people bite into it and know it's a turd, right? Like, you can only do that so long. And so, and this is like one thing I think people fall into is they have that sugar on a turd and they market it a lot and they market it really heavy. And then a whole bunch of people get it and know that that guy put sugar on a turd, right? So I make sure to get all of my systems down right. So whenever we do start marketing heavy, it's like, oh, this is not like, this is actually chocolate and it tastes good. Like, cool. And so that's helped a lot. It's very hard to do. It's, you know, but it's important.
Sorry, Tim from Gears and Fire over on Instagram. He goes, turd beatus, like diabetes. All right, there's someone useless. That's hilarious. I'm sorry, just getting rid of somebody there. So anyway, hey Ryan. So okay, I mean, I wish I did that. It sounds like I'm losing out there. What are you know? So it's the little things that really make a difference when you're dealing with your customers, and you need to make sure that they recognize that. I feel like you're saying.
Yeah. But here's the thing too. Like, this is what I love. And this is something I'm learning and figuring out too. If the thank you notes don't matter if you're selling a cutting board for $50. Like, those people that are buying that don't necessarily care like that much. Like, let's say like a nice cutting board, right? So like, you have to kind of understand your
think that's important
as well. And like all the thank you notes that I wrote for the woodworking side, they've helped us get a lot of reviews. It did help some people come back, but they're helping a lot more on the other side of things, on the CIC workshop side of things. And so there is like a little bit of a balance there, right? Like, there is some things work better than others. But I hate to, if I knew a magic wand to get a whole bunch of customers, I would tell everybody right now, or I'd be a multi-millionaire. So I can't necessarily help out with that side. Just when you do get them, treat them right. And if you have angry ones, if you have bad customers, I don't know.
Well, all right. So I all of this is, I mean, so important, and I love the information. So I want to come back to the woodworking for a second. Now that you've gone through this about almost 10 years, you've been doing multi-million-dollar business, right? What trends do you see now that you think are important? What are some things that you want to focus on more coming up?
In woodworking in general?
Yeah.
I think woodworking is making on the rise just in general. I'm a firm believer, like, I think the more AI increases, the more people are going to want to build stuff with their hands.
I agree.
So that's going to be on the rise as a whole. I think the CNC market, just like you had the Cricut, like the digital printers and all that stuff, and they kept sizing them down. CNCs have a limit of where they can be sized down and like functionable. but I think CNCs are trying to become like the next Cricut. The caveat is they're a little bit more complicated, and so they can never condense down that small. But that's where the CNC market's going, and you'll see that with like a lot of really cheap ones. But in the next 5 years, I believe there's going to be a company that comes out with some kind of compact CNC, kind of like the Bamboo Labs 3D printer, that is just going to be amazing, rigid. The only caveat with the CNC is it's going to be still, you got different bits, right? And you always have to, and different feed rates. So it's going to be a little bit more tricky. But I think the CNC market's going that way. Even when I was in 2019 or 2018, 2019, when I bought my first one, like there's only like 2 or 3 available that were, under $6,000, right? That were decent. And now they're everywhere. Right. So that's one thing. Third thing, this is going to be cool, Logan. I think, there's not an influencer that has I have a dream. If I had a magic wand, I would make a rockler, like a rockler type of a store, but I would have it's only influencers in there. So you have a Logan Newman corner. You have a Cutting It Close corner. You have a John Malecki corner.
But that's what they had. That's where I started selling my stuff. And that was CNC with me. That was their whole sort of business model. But it depended on the influencer selling the product, and they were the middleman. So their whole idea was, we are going to be the shipper and manufacturer, and you are the person selling, and we're going to give you that percentage of it.
Gotcha.
So we can talk about that in a second, but I have a different thing I want to ask. And actually, Amorto Create just came on, which is germane here. I think lasers are the ones that are doing that. They're the ones scaling down, and like, you've got 70-watt diode lasers in a skeleton frame. Now, Amorto Create has like 13 or 15 lasers in her shop. I know that you have a couple, right? You have what, 3?
I have 4 right now. I have two 120s, two 120s, 4x3s, a 60-watt 2x2, and then a 4-foot by 3-foot 130-watt.
Wow. So, but I mean, that's my point. Like, there are so many different varieties of CNCs that you can go down from a 5-watt CNC up to 130, 160, and the prices have come down significantly. Listen, man, you could get. I got 2 offers for diode lasers today.
Oh yeah, I get them every day. But I think the lasers are already happening. That's why I didn't like. The lasers are the reason I started with the CNC instead of a laser, because they're easier to run, and like they're easier to run, have a lower barrier to entry. And so I wanted to do something that the CNC was a harder barrier to entry. That's why I like it. I'm a glutton for punishment. And so that's why I went with the CNC. And it's my firm belief that they're going to make them easier. So like the Cricut got sized down, and it was a vinyl printer. The lasers are getting sized down, and like Glowforge was the first one that's like, you have a Cricut, you have a Glowforge, and you can be in your shop, like making a whole bunch of stuff. Right. And like, that was the initial thing, like, 3 years ago. And then you have the 3D printer. So the only thing that hasn't came down yet is a CNC router.
But there's the shaper, like the little handheld one there. So they have those. And I mean, I don't see how it can get any smaller than that. I mean, that's literally, you put tape down on a piece, you design it, bring it in, and you just hold it. And like, how do you get smaller than that?
That's true. I don't know. Like, that's.
And there are those ones. I know, I've seen the Facebook ads. I think yours come to the Facebook ad, and then right after it is a laser, and then right after that is a one that you feed a piece in, and the CNC holds it, and moves the piece back and forth and cuts it. So, I mean, they are out there. Actually, and as we're almost at an hour, I need to, because sometimes Instagram will cut off. I need to let everyone know that next week Matt Cremona is going to be on, and I'm going to talk to him about his journey from the origin story to building a house and everything else. And I'm again really, this is like, May is great because I have you, I have Morgan from Onefinity, I've got Matt Cremona next week, and then the week after that I've got Larissa Huff, who is an outstanding, amazing woodworker. So I just want to tell them in case it cuts off now. But I mean, let's compare this. Why do you think that, why is the CNC for you like? And I understand what you said about barrier to entry and everything else. Where do you see the laser coming in as it is now? Competitiveness. Did my question make any sense at all? It's okay to say no.
I mean, like, what limitations does it have that a CNC doesn't have, right? Like, that's kind of the.
Well, I mean, the thing is, what I'm seeing with the lasers is that, as Frank said, advancement in technology is great because they keep getting stronger, they keep getting smaller.
Yep.
Right. There's so much that you can do with the lasers. So why do you think that the laser won't outcompete the CNC? And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer here. I'm just curious.
No. I mean, personally, I think a CNC, like a laser's already beating it, like out competing a CNC. They're easier to use. They come in at a cheaper price point, and you can literally have it. I can hold one right here and like do something. I think they beat it. I just think there's something about sawdust flying and bits and sharpness that traditional woodworkers love that you're never going to get with the laser. Like the laser it's like a printer. Like, I mean, you've seen it, but like, or not that the diode ones aren't, but like, so I just think there's some inherent thing that's kind of like why plastic that looks like wood has never taken over wood. Like just a little bit, but like there's still something inherently to like that. And so, second thing is CNCs, their production machines, in cabinet shops and stuff like that. So your lasers are never going to fix that. And like a glimpse inside, which, hello, Chris, good to see you.
Hey, bud.
Hi, too. Oh, he's a great guy. Love him, his story, his family, all that good stuff. So, and lasers have that black edge, right? That a lot of people aren't a fan of. You can't do pockets on a laser. You can't make trays. And I guess this is another thing too. I was about to say, like, typically, like if more men are using CNCs than lasers in general. But I will say that there's a lot more women starting to get into woodworking than has been probably ever. And I don't know if that's because of the introduction of lasers and they get into it, or they just like working with their hands a little bit more now. But
I think it's more. I think it's more that they just like working with their hands.
Yeah.
Chris, I hope you are all cleaned up there, buddy, from the fire. Do you see what happened to him?
Yeah. And I have a Thunder. I don't know if it wasn't his Thunder that burned up, but I have one Thunder and 3 epilogues. So
Dude, that's terrifying. And I mean, that's the thing though. That's the other thing about a laser. And I think that this is a really valid thing. And this is why I don't like this 70-watt open body laser that they've come out with, because that's a ridiculously powerful laser that you don't have any safety issue, anything safe around it. My wife likes working with my hands. I mean, that's the thing, like that. There's a far bigger chance of you creating a fire and burning something down with a laser than there is with CNC.
Yep. And Joe made a good point with the smoke and fumes and and honestly, I think 3D printers like are the best of both worlds, to be quite honest with you. Those things are amazing. Like those are incredible. I don't know why I have one. I don't know why I don't love it more. I think it's the programming aspect. And it's
absolutely.
And like I can buy all the files, but there's just something inherently I don't I don't find joy in clicking go and watching it for 3 hours. Like I just don't find joy in that.
No, you leave it alone. But honestly, of all of those, like the 3D printer is probably the most useful for making things just that you need to use to make. Like you can, even if you find the design, like it's so easy to find a design. I made my wife a tofu press. Frank, we already asked. He's never been to Maker Camp. We got to talk him into it. Yeah, exactly. Chris, I cannot agree with that more. And Tim said you can't compare lasers to CNC. It's a different tool. It all depends on what you do with it. And I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a very valid point right there. It depends on what it is you're trying to do. So,
yeah.
I mean, I love the stuff that Chris does, like the way he designs his components to fit together with the lasing.
Yeah.
Gen Mitsu 4040.
Look that up.
Bye, Timber River. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Brett, I have a video coming
know.
out this weekend on Shapeoko versus Altmill. And so there's a lot of points in there that you can apply to that Jimitsu 440. Just want to throw that out there.
I don't even know. All right. So you have given so much great information tonight, from Etsy to this conversation, that I truly enjoyed just talking about these differences here. If you could leave the people here with one last piece of information that you want them to take home and chew on like the fat of a pig. Well, I always said that because of your pig.
Yeah, well, you know. I don't know. There's nothing like, there's no like crazy thing I'm going to say. I will say this is something that goes through my head a lot. And I don't know if it's not going to make people like stay up at night or anything, but I always ask myself, like, if I had all the money and like, if I was a billionaire, like, what would I do? You know, like, why am I doing all this? Why do I have a business? You know, is this my passion? Da, 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 right? And I roll that all around in my head. And I always think back and I ask myself, if I was a billionaire, what would I do? And I would just have a bigger wood shop. I don't even think it'd be bigger. It'd be nicer woods. And like, I think there's so much value to that, to keep in perspective of like, when you're having a bad day in the wood shop, it's kind of like fishing, right? A bad day on the fishing is better than a good day at work. Like, I love it. And so every time I have a bad day or can't, let's say you can't sell a product or anything like that, like it's still 99.9% better than any other person in the world. And like, if you do make a ton of money, like you're still just going to have a nice wood shop and probably going to have the tools. And so there's not like a juicy nugget there. That's what goes through my head constantly. And I love this stuff. And I think a lot of people find that joy, and they don't need to lose that. Like, I think that's very important to keep in perspective, because the main thing for me is to always maintain perspective on everything. And so I'm blessed. I live in the greatest country in the world. I get to do something that's been around for 1,000 years, but I get to use modern technology to do it, which is a blessing. And if I was a zillionaire, I would just have really nice stuff. And it would actually probably be the shop I have, just with nicer wood. And that's it. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I like that. Enjoy it. If you're not getting joy out of doing it, then why are you doing it? I think that's really what it comes down to. I think that's really important.
And it's like, do I enjoy every single moment? Like, no, but would I rather be doing anything else in the world? Like, I mean, sometimes, you know, Mai Tais on the beach do sound good, until I find that piece of driftwood and I want to make something with it. So,
right. Well, that's the thing. It's good. It's good to go away and relax, but you know, at the end of it, you're itching to get back into
like
doing
that's
it.
a blessing. Like it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Like literally, it doesn't get any better than that. There's no other time in history you get to work for fun, like woodwork for fun. You know, like no other time in history ever you get to actually do something for fun. Like, it's crazy. I love it.
I, I, I like that. You know what? That's a great point right there too. All right, everyone else. Listen, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I appreciate those of you who are here. Brett, Chris, Joe. I appreciate Frank. I appreciate all you guys for commenting, asking questions. That's what makes this fun, is getting a chance to talk to great guys like Ryan. And again, Ryan, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you giving me your time. And when I log off, you and I are gonna stay on for a few minutes. So Instagram, have a good night.
Thank you.